Hi everyone, welcome. And today I have one of the most interesting characters I have ever met in my life. His name is Tarun Chanda. He is the CEO of two organizations, both in the learning and development space, one for children and one for adults. They're called InMe and Expert. And very early in his life, he hit upon a completely different track compared to the rest of us. And I would actually call him a maverick in some sense. Today, we can learn a lot about having fun in life, at the same time enjoying life and creating a big impact to the society. So welcome, Tarun. Hi, how are you?
Glad to be here, Ramji.
So for the information of everybody else, Tarun and I were classmates at XLRI. We completed our graduation way back in 1992. And Tarun has always been an extremely standout character within XLRI. So Tarun, here's the first question for you. The first time I met you, I was actually very intimidated by you. You're one of the typical brash Delhiites, a person who, as a poor South Indian, I was like very scared of. And I was fairly introverted at that time, and you were like one total extrovert, larger than life. And I used to be very scared of approaching you. Later on, I realized that you're one of the, you're very different from that persona which I thought you were. And I think you transformed over the period of 2 years in some sense. So can you tell me a little bit about that journey, from being a Delhiite, brash Delhiite, as I call it, a Panju brash Delhiite, to somebody who's very comfortable mixing with a large number of people?
So I think there were many things that led to that. One, yes, you're right. I grew up in Delhi and on the rough streets of West Delhi, as I would call it, where you had to be street smart to survive. You couldn't cry wolf. You had to manage on your own, and you had to make friends, and you had to have an exterior which was tough, right, so that people didn't bully you. And I was bullied. I was a very short-statured kid when I was growing up. I grew up only after class 8th or 9th or something.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, so I was bullied a lot. In fact, in KG, I was cut from my eye by a blade by someone. So I had to build that kind of stuff, right? So that is what you saw as the external persona. But for me, Excel was a big comfort zone. I had lots of friends in the senior batch. I was actually the batch. I mean, a lot of my friends from my batch in school and college joined Excel a year before. Some of my closest friends, right? And all they told me, they are a great number of people, make friends, have fun, enjoy it. Classes are good, education is okay, but you'll get through that because there's so much of group work, etc., that you have to kind of either shape up or, So most people do tend to shape up and get into the rhythm, even if they're not academically inclined, which I was. So I was very open. I had no trepidation about the experience. And therefore, I made friends across both the batches in the initial year. Right? There was just so much diversity that it was like, for me, it was like being a kid in a candy store. Because I enjoy people, I really get close to people, I have deep relationships with a lot of people. And it was meant for me in a way. And as much as you might think that I got my networking through partying, etc., I think for me it was through being more into experiences. So as I was, reminiscing, I used to play 9-10 sports in XLRI.
Right.
So I would be interacting with the volleyball guys, the basketball guys, the cricket guys, the football guys, the hockey guys. So it was just a myriad of, I made connections in various ways. Right? And Excel kind of forces you to do that too.
Very true.
Yeah.
In fact,
that's what led to the change.
In fact, all of us actually grew up substantially in Excel thanks to the huge diversity of the kind of people there. And also the fact that it was such a small campus that all of us had to interact and mingle so much. And I think that helped all of us actually, smoothen out all the rough edges in our personalities.
Yeah. And I think just the way the curriculum was designed, that you had, 7 courses and 7 group projects, and each group was a different thing, completely different.
That's very true.
Being with somebody who was completely intellectual and somebody who was completely freaking out in life, in the same group. And you learn to work with each other. And
Yeah.
you learn to work with people no matter who they were, what their ethnicity was, what their background was, right?
True.
And yeah, so I think, actually that was the biggest thing. And I make a living out of getting people to work together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you do a very good job of it. So, just moving on to the next part. Since the entire talk today is called Fun, Friendship, and Focus, I'm going to cover the fun part first. And in XLRI, your entire journey can maybe be described as a continuous pursuit of happiness, non-stop pursuit of happiness. And I just want you to tell me a few of the milder escapades that you had. I don't want to shock the hell out of the audience, or not the
no milder escapades. I think it's like anybody's college life. I wasn't there. I was probably out there more than most people. But I just believe in not taking yourself too seriously, right? I think we're just a small speck in this whole universe. I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. So if you just let go and just have fun, laugh a lot, is what was basically my driver, was laughing and cracking jokes. And so if you notice, my friends were people whose laughter was heard through Excel at 2 a.m. in the morning. It was all about just having a great time while you're at it. And it hasn't changed much for me in life. I work still with 4 of my best friends from XLRI.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been together.
Right.
So you can have different versions of success in your life. For me, it was actually, someone told us, how can 5 friends get together or 4 friends get together? It never really works, right?
Well,
Even
it did for you.
So almost it was about proving people wrong that it can work, So a lot of my life has been about doing what a lot of people think is impossible, which actually isn't. It's quite simple. So if you want to make it work, you make it work. Now we've been together for 30 years. I mean, best friends. So still best friends. And we have a lot of fun, I mean, going to office for me is like going to the Excel cafe or Dadu's or like a canteen. We sit on the same table and we just chat and we do work when we have to. The rest of the time we're just chatting.
And anyway. I think that's an amazing input. So, see, the thing is, at the end of the day, all of us spend about 1/3 of our life, or actually more than half of our waking hours, at work. For a large part of our life. And it's so important to have great friends along with you. You are very lucky that you actually had the best friends along with you when you started the journey. But even people who get into other companies and work there, you can focus on this aspect, right? Have fun, don't take yourself too seriously, and ensure that you laugh a lot with the people who are around you all the time. That will actually make things so much nicer for yourself as a person. Your journey becomes so much nicer.
So someone told me, "Yaar, friends ke saath kaam nahi karna chahiye. Don't work with friends."
Oh my God.
So one of my really close friends was sitting next to me and he said, "So kya dushmanon ke saath karoge?" I mean, so will you work with your enemies? So if you cannot work with your best friends, just imagine, how can you work with a stranger?
Very true. Yeah.
Right.
So I very strongly believe in a workplace, the real key to success in a workplace is complete trust among people who work there. I'm just sort of flipping it around a bit from what you said. You said it'll be great to work with your best friends, but everybody may not be as lucky as you in making that happen. Many people end up in jobs where they don't have too many people they already know. But it's possible for us to make great number of friends within the organization.
Yes.
And that's what you should do, right? Rather than looking at the other person as an adversary or a competitor, you try and build the bridges, find out what is common, build on that, and become great pals with whoever is around you.
Yeah. Exactly. So, in fact, that's what my dad gave us when we were getting together. My dad's advice to us, both Gaurav and me, was that when you start a business and you start it with friends or other partners, what you focus on are the strengths and what the other person is going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
But a couple of years later, you start focusing on the negatives in that person and not on the strengths.
Right.
So remember that you always must focus on the strengths and not on the negatives.
I have seen. Sorry.
And this whole person is a package. You can't have one without the other. So you have to accept and move on and work with that.
I have seen this playing out in company after company, especially in startup companies, where the CEO takes a decision to bring in somebody who is high quality into the organization, looking at the strengths, and then within about a year or two, start figuring out that that person is not a perfect person. The point is nobody is perfect. And we should remember that evolution has made us look for the negatives in people or in situations rather than the positives. We are biased towards looking for the negative. That's how we survive.
We are like tuning folks.
Absolutely.
We can sense a threat.
Right? Yeah.
The moment I sense it, it's neuro-linked in my psyche over millions of years.
Absolutely. And so it is important for us to force our mind to look for the positive, keep building on the positive. Otherwise, the problem is actually you who will go through the stress of life, right? Because you're constantly feeling under threat.
There is no other way, Ramji. I think constantly people have told me, this can't be done. And whenever someone says this can't be done, it's something that I say, okay, let me show you it can be done. 1995, when we were thinking of setting up kids camps in 12 hours away from Delhi at 8,000 feet on the hills in Kumaon and asking parents to trust us with their children for 10 days. People thought we were mad. We were 27, 28. We didn't have kids of our own. And people said, how will people trust you to give you their kids? But they did. 98 parents trusted us in 1996. And today, 10,000 kids go on our programs in a year.
Amazing.
So it's about, believing and then making things happen. Not everybody will think everything is impossible because they just don't know very often.
So TC, we spoke about fun and then we talk about friendship and how important that is, these two aspects. And in fact, you're one of the early birds, one of the earliest in our batch to actually become an entrepreneur. You and friend. The earliest. Okay. So, and it was a big thing in those days. Today, actually, startup companies are dime a dozen. But in those days, for you to chuck a job, especially coming from a middle class background and then chucking a job and then getting into entrepreneurship must have been a very tough one, right? So let's talk about that aspect a bit. How did you guys get into this, and how did that fun and friendship actually help you in figuring out what kind of business you want to be in, how you want to drive this?
So 2 or 3 things led to it. I was working with HCLHP and I remember that 9 MBAs were given a project. 9 MBAs came back who were the so-called senior management SMTs, trainees, who they treat as talent, like high quality talent, right? And we went through a brilliant training they gave us over 1.5, probably the best training of my life, 1.5 years, 1.5 months into joining them. Then we sent out on projects, we did the project, we came back, we were very honest and transparent. We had some suggestions. And after we gave our suggestions, my boss turned around. This was my 10th month in HCL. He turned around and told us 9 MBAs from IIM Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Bangalore, XLRI, FMS sitting there. And he says, you guys are right, but Shiv Nader has already said to do it this way. So I can't go back to him and speak to him. So that's the moment I realized this is useless. I'm not going to be someone who can work in an environment like this. So I basically tendered my resignation the next day.
Wow.
And then I contacted Gaurav. He was living a really nice life, comfortable life with SRF. But again, there was some unhappiness. So convinced him that we should get out on our own. There were a few opportunities in the advertising space at that time with our other friends in Delhi. So there was some, events, Apache India and Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson was coming to India, all that. So we got into event management, advertising, etc. And while we were doing that, we spoke to Ronnie and Lokesh in Bombay. And they were staying together in a chamari. Ronnie was working with Godrej. Lokesh was also with HCL. So when we told them what we are planning, we used to do it on an STD phone booth, right? So they said, yeah, we are also sick of this. So let's try and do something together. Even we had some idea. So we went to Bombay, Gaurav and me. We left our jobs and we went to Bombay.
Okay.
That's where we formed our first company called Wine. We couldn't even come up with a name. So over some beer, Ronnie, I think, said, yeah, what's in a name? Yeah. So then somebody said, oh, what's in a name is a good name. Yeah. So we set up a company called What's in a Name called Wine, which was into advertising, below the line advertising. So, and Ramji, we had zero revenue, but we were on the cover of Business Today and Business India.
I remember that.
Yeah, why? Because it was such a rarity for people to leave the comfort of jobs and to try and start something.
Yeah.
And finally, we made a success of that. It took us 6 months to get onto our feet, but within 3 years, we had made enough surplus to start what we do now, which is discovery and camps in the outdoors and corporate training for people in the outdoors, etc. So it was a lot of stuff happening together that led to us getting into business and taking the plunge. A lot of family support, But we didn't, we started with 15,000 rupees, which was the lowest bank balance of one of us as our equity.
Okay.
And it's been 30 years. We haven't put in more equity.
That's amazing.
Other than now in the pandemic, which we had to. But before that, we survived on that 15,000 rupees and generated everything that we have today out of that 15,000 rupees investment and hard work and sweat.
So when you guys sort of pivoted a little down the line and then decided to get into children's adventure camps, this is something which is a huge path-breaking thing in India because the concept didn't exist at all in the country. And for you taking such a big risk so early in your entrepreneurial career, that must have been really tough, right? What made you actually get into this? And when it has paid rich dividends, but in that era, it must have been a very difficult decision to make, isn't it?
So I think there were a couple of, again, things. One is, what is your barometer of success? Right? Is it making the company with the largest turnover, largest employee base, number one in the world? What is your aspiration? And very often, most entrepreneurs look at the financial side because that's the measurable side, and that is how you can quantify whether you're successful or not in the business world. Right? To me, that wasn't ever a concern. Yeah, live a simple, frugal life, not too worried about money. Money to me was always an end result of doing stuff. So before I got my Excel admission, I'd taken ₹1 lakh from my father, and I wanted to go to Manali in 1989.
Okay.
And actually take up a job. I was a BCom honors by then from SRCC. I thought I'll take up a job either with a hotel or a bank or something. And over time, settle down in Manali and start a business. So a hotel, restaurant, something like that. So me and my friend nearly had made this plan. And we would have gone in 3 months. But my Excel admission came and I put it off for 2 years and then it never happened. So I wanted to live in the hills all through my life. My family belongs to Dehradun and Mussoorie. When we shifted from the northwest frontier during the partition, we went to Dehradun. That's where my family kind of came back when they came back from Pakistan.
Right.
And we grew up in that refugee kind of outlook where, boss, you had to work hard, you had to take initiative, you had to be bright,
right.
You had to make success your own. There's no way you had support kind of stuff. So a lot of our holidays used to be in the hills. Till this date, I am trying to achieve that. I haven't achieved that. I get to live periods of my time. I have 2 houses in the hills which I've built where I thought I will go and settle.
Right.
But life takes on, you have parents to take care of, you have children to send to college. life takes on, and that's why I say one of the biggest learnings for me is John Lennon's song called, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Very good one.
So that happened. Second is that we were introduced to outbound training as part of a training course in XLRI by Abhijit Baduri, who used to then work for Tisco.
Okay.
And he was a visiting prof.
Mm-hmm.
So he explained that Tisco and Telco sometimes use outdoor education. They take treks to Dalma and all.
Right.
So that also stuck in our head that we could use our background on psychology, organizational behavior, HR, personal development, whatever, to get into this area, both for kids and for corporates.
Right.
And therefore, we approached some very senior faculty, people who mentored us for the next 5 years. So we would become their apprentices. And we learned from Dr. Bhupin Srivastava, Renu Rajpal, Professor Sarangi. So there were just so many people who were from the behavioral field, ISABS, ISTD, who started running programs with us.
Okay.
For corporate. We would go sell an outbound training program for their teams, and they would send us the teams, but we would always have a senior faculty running the program.
Right.
Over 5 years, Gaurav and I definitely got mentored in the art of facilitation.
Right.
We had no formal training in it other than XLRI, which was our background.
Yeah.
And then we started to innovate because we could do stuff which was being done in the classroom using outdoor stuff.
Right.
Which then brought the whole body action. You can theoretically say in a desert survival, plane crash exercise, I will carry a knife. But when you are actually in a situation, you forget to carry the knife.
Yeah.
Or you make wrong choices.
Yeah.
So we quickly realized that just intellect is not what drives action.
Right.
Intellect plus emotion, and emotion being a larger part that drives or prevents you from action.
Right.
And therefore, we started incorporating emotional intelligence way before Daniel Goleman wrote his book into our programs, without knowing it was emotional intelligence. But that's what it was.
Right.
And soon we started reading, we self-taught ourselves. I attended programs abroad. We did some accreditations in MBTI and stuff like that. And slowly made yourself into a facilitator. And I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Till today, most of our work is incoming calls. Most means I'm saying 99%.
That's amazing.
We have ever called out to get business. Because anybody who works with us once sees the value and then they, come back to us whenever they feel they need us. We never really reach out. So over now, last 25 years, 30 years, I've probably worked with 1,000 senior CE EXO teams,
Yeah.
Imagine working with that caliber all the time. You learn so much from them.
Yeah.
They're leaders of large organizations,
Right.
So they have solid metal, solid quality, solid intellect, solid leadership acumen. So you learn a lot from these teams, and therefore that's how you build your, keep your river of knowledge rich.
Yeah.
So it's more practical. Since we run businesses, we run a very large children's business. Right. And it's very logistical. It's very customer oriented. Needs a lot of touch points. We run that business, so we understand practicality.
Yeah.
So we are not theoretical consultants. We call ourselves practicing professionals.
Yeah, I think that is very true, right? Running a very complex business, complex and highly sensitive business. I mean, because when you're handling children, even the smallest issue can become blown out of proportion, right? And handling something like that would have given you such rich experience to be able to interact with a set of CEOs, CXOs. At the same time, the learning that you get from them when you're actually facilitating their learning is something which you can plow back into your work as well. So.
Bang on. So it's a totally symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
You learn about strategy, or someone did something smart in marketing. You come back and,
right.
And what you did and your experience in customer service,
which
is what we pride ourselves on. So our motto in life is it's all about them and never about us.
So the focus on learning and focus on delivering great customer experience, I think that is what really got you guys here, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we do that in every business of ours. Now,
Right.
in the pandemic, we were forced to start a tourism business, right? Because
Wow.
we had these flights and kids can't go out and corporates weren't doing training.
Right.
So, what do we do with all this infrastructure? It will
Yeah.
just rot in 2 years. So, we
Right.
started doing tourism. We
Right.
started sending people on family holidays, etc. And then we came up with this concept of a music concert in the hills called Unplugged.
Right.
And Ramji, I can tell you when that event finished,
Mm-hmm.
again, people told me nobody will come.
Okay.
I had 55 people paying to come for that event.
Wow.
Full house. I
Okay.
didn't have more capacity. I didn't have more tents to give people.
Right.
Right? And I told my team that for me, when that event finished, it was the feeling I got when the first busload of kids went back from Sitla Khel in 1996. Of having pulled off something which people thought was impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, and now we're going to do 6 of those events.
Wow.
Our next event is November 4th to 6th in Rishikesh. We already have singers. I have 70 singers on my list now.
Wow.
Right? It's
Fantastic.
becoming a whole thing. Yeah, it's become a whole new business idea, new business model.
Fabulous.
So, yeah, it's fabulous to be an entrepreneur because you can do what you want.
Yeah. So actually, what you're saying is, COVID actually, even though it impacted, I'm sure it impacted you, and all this is
We
massive.
almost died.
Yeah.
We almost became extinct. Yeah.
But you could find silver linings in that, which helped you create new businesses, new avenues, which are now becoming full-fledged business avenues by themselves.
2, 3 big learnings from the pandemic.
Tell me.
Okay, we have never raised funds before in our life because we didn't want to be answerable to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But the pandemic, there was either a choice of raising funds or shutting down.
Right.
Right? So, other than our own savings which we put in, we went around with a bowl and said, hey, this is our business. This is what we think its value was before the pandemic. Let's half it. And we are willing to sell 10% of or 12% of our equity for that.
Right.
And, go back to our first question about my friendships in XLRI, right?
Yeah.
About 10, 12, 15 of our classmates have invested in our company.
Wow.
Right. In the last 2 years.
Fantastic.
Right. Whether it's Shubha, whether it's NGT, whether it's Manish, and Radhika, whether it's PJ, whether it is Pawan Bhatia, Anand, Dadaji, Mishti, you name it. We have some 15 investors from XLRI from the 2 batches.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, very, very grateful for them. And so it's actually put a new lease of life in us because now we were very comfortable financially and all between these 2 businesses, right? Between the kids and this. But the pandemic kind of took that comfort away.
Yeah.
And now we also feel we are indebted to people who helped us. So we don't have a choice but to build a bigger business, self-sustainable, which produces dividends not just for us but for the shareholders as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we were the shareholders, right? So,
Right.
it wasn't such a big deal. So we are now taking business a lot more seriously than we did, and growth and expansion. Secondly, what we realized is that one of my friends used to say, when the river comes down, that's when you see the plastic on the sides and the garbage on the sides. Right? When the river is high, all the garbage is submerged.
Wonderful.
Right? So when your business is doing well, you have cash flows, you're in profit, you're running, you are getting enough salary, you're happy. You don't
Ignore
worry.
the imperfections.
Yeah. But when the river goes down, that's when you realize that, hey, you were carrying a lot of load.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore, you were carrying inefficiencies.
Right.
We've grown to a huge organization with a huge overhead. Supporting that overhead in the pandemic became a huge challenge.
Right.
These are people who work with us for 10, 12, 15, 20 years.
People
who join us very seldom leave, and we don't chuck people out. So,
right.
So like that, it just made us feel a lot more cost conscious and overhead conscious. And now we know how we can raise our EBITDA.
Right.
Earlier we didn't. Now we know. Right? So that's it. That was the second biggest learning. And the third biggest learning was that if we were around at the end of this, there will be opportunities because a lot of people will succumb
Right.
to the pandemic. And that's exactly what happened. Now we have opportunities where we are tying up, collaborating with people. We're opening a new campsite now near Bangalore, which we could have never imagined in the past. 20 kilometers from the Bangalore airport. Very difficult to, even think of a campsite in that area because land price is so expensive. But, those opportunities came up now.
So, DC, we've covered fun, friendship, and focus part of your journey. Now, I know it's difficult being the kind of persona that you have to associate tragedy with you, but you had an early tragedy where your wife and our classmate Anna passed away early. Can you tell us a little bit about that part of your journey?
Ramji again goes back to transparency in relationships. Anna was had this illness since she was 2, and a lot of us knew it in Excel that she wasn't always well. But she had told me that she, in the near future, would need a liver transplant. And in those days, a liver transplant was almost an impossibility. Unhappening in India.
True.
And since you're not a citizen of the US or UK or Australia, you were very back on the list, and there were very rare chances that you'd ever get. But somehow, because we kept trying, and Anna, was very in touch with her doctors and very on top of her disease, and basically took total control of her own treatment. She knew pretty much as much about liver transplants as much as doctors. And
Yeah.
Over time, I also got educated in that.
Right.
So we were very fortunate. And even when we got married, Anna's parents came down to meet my parents with all her medical reports and gave us the medical reports and said, get a consult with your family doctor. And my dad and mother did.
That's amazing, huh? What a story.
And my parents were told, your son should marry this girl. This is going to lead to tragedy.
Yeah.
So, but for Anna and me, it was, even if we had 10 years together, it was worth it for her and it was worth it for me. So that's how we looked at it. So what you call a tragedy, me and Anna actually looked at it that when she had a transplant, we got a new lease of life. She nearly died in 2002.
Yeah.
And then she passed away only in 2015. So she got a 13 extra years and she was able to fulfill her goal. If you read her book, her goal was to get Aditi to 18, which is our daughter.
Yeah.
The year Aditi turned 18 and she was going to the US for her studies is the year she passed away. And, even before her death, I think she knew that she's going to go when she got that bout of illness. She would be in and out of hospital. So none of us, we would say she has 9 lives. She herself would say, she has 9 lives and she survived. But this time when she went in, me and Aditi were actually in Delhi and she was in Kerala and she called me and said, you should come. I said, well, it's just a small chest infection. You'll be back home. I'll come after. Aditi had a visa interview actually for America. That's why she was here. And she said, no, you guys should come now. So later when I reread her book, I realized that she probably knew because she knew that most transplant patients in the end die of pneumonia.
My God.
Because of immunity. Yeah. So she had contracted that particular pneumonia and she knew.
My God.
Yeah. And then it was a matter of 4-5 days and she passed away. But yes, it was a shock and it's not a great experience to live through. But life is like that. Yeah, it's a train journey. People get on and get off. And you should make the best of it with the people who are in your box at that time.
Wonderful. That's a great philosophy.
People will get on at some station. And who knows when I get off, So,
good point.
Yes.
So, you've had your own personal challenges, colon cancer, and you treated that and you had a relapse. Life has been tough on that sense.
Yeah, but if I look back, I was diagnosed in 2018 October. It's nearly been 4 years now. And though you would believe, and that's what I believed when first time I realized, shit, I have cancer. And it's almost a death knell, right? And
Right.
I've experienced cancer because it's in my family. My mother died of cancer.
Right.
All her sisters have cancer. Some are living, some died. So it's in the family. My cousin died at the age of 21 with leukemia.
Yeah.
So it was a big shock. But I wish doctors would tell people that it's not the end of your life at that moment.
Right.
You know, maybe they don't because they want you to take it seriously and work at it. And maybe I'm lucky or whatever, or I'm an outlier. But my experience with cancer has not been as bad as there's been pain, there's been chemo, radiation, lots of it. I mean, I've gone through lots of it. It is a metastatic cancer now, so it's in my body. Right now, I'm cancer free. Don't know for how long it's lived. I told someone jokingly, now I'm a real CEO. I'm living quarter by quarter. That's my PET CT report. So what if I didn't make it to Wall Street?
Nice one, DC. Yeah, I really love your attitude towards life. Huh? So a lot of learnings which came through in this talk. Thanks a ton, DC. I think we are sort of out of time now.
Last one, Ramji, before you shut me out, right?
Yeah.
Another line from another song by Jim Morrison.
Uh-huh.
It says, I'm going to get my kicks before the whole shithouse goes up in flames. Right? So, sooner or later, this life will end, and you should get your kicks and enjoy it and experience as much as you can.
My philosophy in life is exactly the same. Every moment of your life, you should just maximize, enjoy every moment of your life, and don't sweat the small stuff. Look at the positives in every moment and live it fully to the maximum.
If there is no sadness, there will be no joy. There is joy only because there is sadness.
Thank you so much, DC. Thanks a ton for your time. I think that is a very enlightening and entertaining talk. And so it's all about fun, friendship, and focus, and laughter, of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. And people, if you like this, please subscribe to the channel. Don't go without subscribing. Click on that button. Thank you so much. And we'll bring a lot more interesting stuff for you as we go by. Thank you so much.